The Super Nintendo was no stranger to arcade-style joysticks. Everyone knows about the SNES Super Advantage. Maybe you've also seen Capcom's Fighter Power Stick, or one of the other many Super Nintendo arcade sticks that adorned the shelves of stores like Electronics Boutique during the 90s. But chances are that you've never seen the C&L Controls Championship Joystick or its successors. And until recently, I hadn't either. Today, we're going to take a quick look at the time an inventor entrepreneur and a Department of Defense contractor manufactured one of, if not the best, arcade joystick for the Super Nintendo, only to later have the contractor, let's just say, borrow the joystick design for themselves. This is the story of C&L Controls Championship Joystick. The Championship Joystick was first revealed to the world in the August 1992 issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly. The Championship Joystick was created by Lee Bender, who was nice enough to answer several questions from me via email. Lee sent a prototype of the Championship Joystick to EGM's Chicago offices in 1992, and they were so impressed that they included it as part of that month's EGM Express article along with a picture of the prototype. Even though the small write-up wasn't a formal review, and all EGM had was the prototype, they spent 214 words gushing about its quality. I first saw the Championship Joystick at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, and was puzzled when I saw the Super Nintendo controller. Its plain shell is a sharp contrast to the colorful and over-the-top designs of other third-party SNES joysticks from the 90s. Then there was the lack of etched printing on its base, no copyright date, and its name and companies behind it were printed in a no-frills font in the lower right-hand corner. I had never heard of either of these companies before, and I just assumed that the Championship Joystick was going to be another awful third-party Super Nintendo controller. I picked it up more out of morbid curiosity than excitement over using it. Little did I know how wrong I was about how good the Championship Joystick is built, or how interesting its short backstory really is. Lee Bender is a smart guy. Today he has been awarded no less than 14 different patents for automotive products he developed under his Alabama-based C&L Performance Company, which he started around the same time as C&L Controls. Shortly after graduating college, Lee saw the need for a true, arcade-like joystick for the Super Nintendo that could complete the arcade experience for the soon-to-be-released 16-bit Street Fighter II port.
Street Fighter II is on Super Nintendo. From the arcades, the ultimate combat game.
Yes, Capcom was releasing their own fight stick to complement Street Fighter II home ports, and while the Capcom Fighter Power Stick did use some arcade parts, strangely enough, it wasn't a fully authentic experience. It had an angled design that changed the layout compared to the arcade, and used convex buttons instead of standard concave arcade buttons. Lee's design may not be flashy, but it is something far more important: authentic. The Championship Joystick uses arcade hat buttons, cherry micro switches, and the same bat handle style joystick you'd see in many Street Fighter II cabinets. The button spacing was also identical to that of the Street Fighter II arcade. When I first used the Championship Joystick, I was surprised by how my muscle memory was triggered when playing Street Fighter II with it, as opposed to when I've used other fight sticks with different button placements. The Championship Joystick is also extremely durable. Its shell is made out of Cyclite, which is a specialized rubberized plastic-like material that was used in many payphones. It's lightweight but very resilient. Another company based out of Alabama named KBM was tapped to handle manufacturing the Championship Joystick. KBM has been in business since the 80s and is still around today. Among other things, KBM is a Department of Defense contractor who, according to their website, specialize in lethality, command and control, and surveillance and target acquisition. Lee's Championship Joystick received overwhelmingly positive write-ups and had a fairly strong gaming magazine ad campaign. Originally priced at $69.95, the Championship Joystick was available via direct order as well as retailers such as Electronics Boutique, Babbage's, Software Etc., and Funkoland. The Championship Joystick was released just a couple of months after Street Fighter II for the Super Nintendo hit store shelves in 1992. The Championship Joystick could be found for sale in magazines all the way through the fourth quarter of 1994. Despite being somewhat of a rare item today, the Championship Joystick sold quite well. Well enough that KBM decided to, shall we say, borrow Lee's product and release their own very similar joysticks under the Arcadian brand. Aside from the start, mode, and select buttons being on the side of the controllers and a slightly different base, KBM's Arcadian joysticks are nearly cosmetically identical to the original championship joystick designed by Lee, all the way down to the name and logo in the lower right-hand corner and the screw placements around the joystick. KBM released Arcadian branded joysticks for the Genesis, Super Nintendo, and a version that could be used on both systems. Now, KBM did also manage to release a couple of original products, the Spectrum Reach extension cables and the Super Joe cable, which was an adapter to use the championship joystick on an 8-bit NES. Now, I want to make it clear that Lee Bender didn't flat out say that KBM stole his design, rather that they decided to release their own, and this was in quotes, different product after they saw how successful his joystick was. That being said, the similarities between the Arcadian joystick and Lee Bender's C&L Controls Championship Joystick are pretty hard to ignore. I'd also like to take a moment to remind everyone that KBM specializes in lethality, and as such, I am also not saying that KBM stole Lee's design. Lee Bender's Championship Joystick controls beautifully. It's responsive, the buttons click the way you'd expect those at an arcade to, and it is really fun to use. The Championship Joystick will work with any SNES game, and although it's missing turbo options a lot of other third-party controllers had, it really shines when playing beat-em-ups, fighting games, shoot-em-ups, and other arcade ports. Even though it's not the most well-known Super Nintendo joystick, you can still find message board posts from people praising it or even lamenting getting rid of theirs. If you're interested in getting one for yourself, you can expect to pay around $100 for a championship joystick. I reached out to KBM about the Arcadian joystick and the C&L Controls Championship Joystick, but unfortunately, they never replied. Thanks so much for watching this mini episode. I'm currently working on a longer deep dive into the Neo Geo. It should be out soon, but depending on how long that takes, I might release another mini episode about Nick Arcade in between. Again, thanks so much for watching.